Is anybody else here besides us, David? You have to unmute yourself.
I think we're all here.
How do we see everybody?
You have to change your settings.
Oh, there we go. Only a person talking is what we see?
No, if you change your settings, I can try to tell you how to do it. I just learned today.
Yeah.
Do you want me to...
Gallery.
There's a picture. There's a little thing.
I got it. It's called gallery view at the top right.
You got it. Yeah, you got it.
Okay. We're going to mute ourselves and listen to, I think it's Brian, right? Brian, you're doing this? Brian Murphy?
Everybody's muted.
Murray, I am not, but I'm happy to chime in.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't know who.
I'm sorry, guys. We're about to start the meeting, so sure the chairman will explain the process.
Thank you.
Peter, you all set?
I'm all set, ready to go.
All right. Good evening. My name is Peter Basker.
Recording in progress.
I'm chairman of the Branford Inland Wetland Commission. I'll now open our regular monthly meeting. It is March 27, 2025. It is now 7 o'clock. This evening's meeting will be conducted as a virtual meeting using the Zoom software conferencing platform. It is being conducted in accordance with Connecticut Public Act 22-3. Documents referenced during the meeting this evening are available at the town hall and are on the agency's website. Final agenda for tonight's meeting is dated and filed on March 26th and is also on the town's website. Does staff have any changes to the agenda for this evening?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, no changes. I just want to identify that item, what is it? 7C is tabled and will not be discussed this evening.
Okay. First, to provide public exposure to these proceedings, Branford Community Television will be recording and broadcasting tonight's meeting. We're thankful certainly for their participation, and the public can view the recordings on the appropriate channel. I recognize we have several members of the public with us this evening who may not have been with us in the past. As participants in the evening's proceeding, please be conscious of positioning your camera so that your face is visible, especially when speaking. To ensure an accurate and complete record of discussion, each time a statement who's speaking? Okay. Each time a statement or comment is made during tonight's meeting, the party speaking must announce his or her name before articulating any comment. This applies to any party wishing to participate. Those wishing to speak can use the raise your hand feature of the Zoom platform, indicating a desire to speak. Once the meeting has begun, please mute your microphone to eliminate any feedback. The intent to have the meeting run smoothly and the information be presented accurately. Commission wants to hear from all interested parties. Any comments from wetland staff that they would like to make at this point regarding proceedings for this evening's meeting?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, I just would like to suggest if you're not currently talking or presenting, if you could make sure you're muted and perhaps turn off your video just to help keep things running as smooth as possible. And if you have any problems raising your hand when we get to the public comment section, we will try to address that. And I think that's it for now.
Great. We'll now take our customary roll call of the commission. When I announce your name, please indicate your presence by saying present. Commissioner Gorkowski.
Commissioner Gorkowski, present.
Commissioner Begeman.
Commissioner Begeman here, present.
Commissioner Mirsky.
Commissioner Mirsky, present.
Commissioner Armrod.
Commissioner Armrod, present.
Commissioner Papantonis.
Commissioner Papantonis, present.
Jamie Frederick, Inland Wetland Director and Enforcement Officer,
Present.
and Katie Blanchett, Inland Wetland Associate.
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum and we'll proceed. All commissioners are seated for this evening's meeting and are able to vote. Is there any commissioner who feels that they need to recuse themselves from this evening's proceedings? Hearing none, we're going to move to the item on the agenda regarding the approval of the minutes. We have March 13th, 2025 minutes that again are on the agency's website. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
This is Commissioner Goklowski. I move that we approve the minutes as recorded from the March 13th meeting.
Hopefully there's a second out there.
Commissioner Papantonis, second.
Any further discussion on those minutes? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. First item on the agenda after the minute approval is other business in the wetland 230502, 35 Bayberry Lane, which is a room addition where an existing deck exists. And this is to allow an additional extension of that deck. Is there any new material on this, Jamie?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. There's no new material. However, we do have Jim Preddy with Crisco Engineering present to answer any questions the commission has.
Jim Preddy, Mr. Chairman, would you like me to put the plan on the screen quickly just to show
That'd
you?
be great. Thank you.
Okay. So anyway, Jim Preddy, Crisco Engineering, representing Julie Nizwicki at 35 Bayberry. Let's see, window. Let's see, share. If I go here, hopefully you can see that. You see the plan now?
We do.
I do.
Okay, so this was the plan as it was approved. If you recall, we had a couple of meetings and a site walk. The proposal at the time was for an second floor addition over the garage, which is nearing completion right now. And now they're moving into the house renovation. There was a deck here that's being removed and an addition for a dining room that was, the deck was 190 square feet being removed, and we were adding 237 a room in this area that I think all would agree if they were there that it was very nice manicured lawn. So the change is just bumping the room out 3 feet into that same lawn area. So it amounts to about 50 square feet increase. And on the architect's plan, they are also showing some pavers because there's a slider at the end. So that's what that little rectangle is, just a little place to step out the door. That's it. There's no other changes.
This is Commissioner Basserman. Mr. Preddy, just clarified for me the tubes that were supporting the original plan for the deck. Are we just merely extending that tube structure for the extension?
No, Jim Preddy again. No, the plan was when we were here the first time was that they're going to do, dig frost walls and it'll be a very short crawl space, similar to what's under that portion of the house now. So this just extends that out 3 feet.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You have to be able to run heat and electric underneath. So,
Mr. Peretti, this is Commissioner Goklowski. So I had the privilege of being on that site walk. It was actually my first site walk when I came.
I remember.
And I was impressed the way they did maintain the yard in that whole area. In fact, I was very surprised to find that the majority of the property was on wetlands. And what is that total square footage that you're adding? Just for, is it 50 feet by what?
we're adding about 50 square feet, so it's
50
three.
square feet. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's like 3 by 15, so
Yeah.
almost.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is Commissioner Begemon. When we have a situation like this where something is in the wetlands and is being built, and it is a lawn, what do we say about how that lawn is maintained? You know, anything, Jamie?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. There was nothing in the permit conditions when the permit for the addition was.
This is Commissioner Goklowski. If I remember correctly, the property owner has a professional service that maintains the property, and from what if it's the same one that I use, they use all organic material. They do not use any, pesticides. It's all organic stuff. I believe the service that she uses is the same one that I use on my properties.
That was, I don't know for certain, but that was my recollection from when we were out there. Also, Jamie, I don't know if you recall, before we got involved in this addition, there was some replanting that happened in the back part of the yard. And then there was a couple of dead trees, I think, that had gotten removed too.
Yeah, there was a violation for vegetation removal. There was some storm damaged vegetation, and the owner didn't realize there were wetlands. When she received the notice, did what she needed to get things in compliance, has been doing the monitoring reports and has done the plantings. I can screen share and show a picture just for to refresh everyone of what it looks like. So is everyone seeing the picture?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the
So
deck.
this is the deck where the addition is proposed and would be coming out approximately another, what is it?
I think total is 5 feet from the deck,
5 feet.
but it's
So it is a very atypical situation. Generally speaking, the statutes permit that a single family residence would have, or residential use would have the right to maintain a pre-existing condition and maintenance regime within a wetland area. So they would have the right to maintain the lawn in the fashion that they've been maintaining it arguably.
This is Commissioner Basserman. Mr. Preddy, regarding the addition, I see that there's gutters on the main house. What is the stormwater management procedure with this addition? Are we extending gutters, or is this just going to roll off the roof?
no, they'll put gutters on. They'll be, split up like they are now out into the lawn. Quite honestly, the lawn in the shape it's in eats the water right up. So it pretty much goes right back in the ground there.
Gotcha. Thank you. Any other questions from the commission? Staff, any concerns that staff has on this?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. I feel like the changes are pretty minor in nature, given that it's in a wetland. It's not something that can be reviewed administratively.
Any commissioner want to offer a motion on inland wetland 230502?
This is Commissioner Goklowski. I'll take a stab at it. Inland Wetlands number 230502, I recommend that we approve it as stipulated with all terms and conditions that were set forth in
Previous approval.
in the previous discussions and moving forward, any additional changes that are going to be any ground disturbance out of that purview area. I would expect that the property owner or their site people would notify the inland wetlands agent. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. I mean, we've already gone through this last year.
Is there a second to Commissioner Gokowski's motion?
This is Commissioner Murski. I'll second.
Any further discussion by the commission? Okay, we'll take a
Jamie
roll call
Frederick.
vote. Oh,
In the wetland
Jamie.
agent, I just want to clarify that was a motion to approve the revised plan with the conditions of the original permit to remain in place.
that was my understanding, but
Yeah, that's
Gokowski,
correct. Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct. Commissioner Gokowski, that's correct. You know, I'm not up on all this lingo,
You did good. I wanted to be clear.
but no, I approve it as, yeah.
all right, we're gonna take a vote. Commissioner Gokowski,
I,
Commissioner Begeman,
Commissioner Begeman, aye.
Commissioner Murski,
Commissioner Murski, aye.
Commissioner Omrod,
Commissioner Ormrod, aye.
Commissioner Papantonis. Commissioner Papantonis.
I'm going to abstain because my internet cut out and I didn't hear the motion.
Can we read back the motion for Commissioner Papantonis?
you want me to do it or do you want Katie to do it?
Well, if Katie has it, it may be tough to duplicate exactly, but why don't you take a crack at it?
Okay. A motion is on the floor to approve inland wetlands application.
To approve the revised plan for
And
inland wetland
inland
application.
wetlands 230502 35 Bayberry Lane for the roof addition where the existing deck exists and second floor addition over the existing garage. And the permit modification under subsection I.
Okay. Aye.
Commissioner Basserman, aye. The motion carries and is unanimous.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. Next up, we have the public hearing. I will now open public hearing 250101. The commissioners that are seated for this application are required to be fair and independent, not predisposed to any outcome. The commission must decide the merit of the application from the facts as they appear on the record and from their own personal observations and technical expertise. Permit decisions must be concluded within timeframes specified by the Connecticut statutes and our regulations. At a previous meeting of the commission, it was determined there was enough public interest in the proposed project to warrant a public hearing. In accordance with Connecticut state statutes and our inland wetland regulations, notice for tonight's meeting was posted. In accordance with our normal procedure, the applicant will make its presentation to the commission. Commission most likely will have comments or questions which may occur either during the presentation or immediately following the presentation. After the commission has concluded its queries, the public will be invited to speak. As the commission has other items on the agenda it needs to review this evening, I'm going to establish a 2-hour time limit for the public hearing. I believe it is unlikely that a decision will be reached this evening, given the presentation, the questions from the commission, and likely public comments. If the hearing is extended, our next scheduled meeting is April 10th. It is my hope that members of the public that won't be able to attend the meeting of April 10th would be allowed to speak this evening. Jamie, any other comments that you feel we need to state at this time regarding the proceedings?
I think we're good at this time.
Okay. The applicant, you have the floor. Who will begin the presentation?
Really quickly, Katie Blanchett and the Wetland Associate. Do you want to mention the chat feature, Jamie?
I do we have chats going on?
No, not yet.
Oh, just Melissa. Okay. Yeah, so we just request that you hold off on any comments, whether they're verbal or via the chat, until we get to the public comment section. So please refrain from using the chat unless you're having technical difficulties or need to for some other reason. Any communication comments should be held off until we get to the public comment section.
So the applicant, you have the floor now.
Good evening. My name is Ronald Wasmer. I'm a professional engineer and a licensed land surveyor with an office at 158 Research Drive, Milford, Connecticut. I'm here to represent.
Commissioner Basserman, excuse me, can you increase the volume a little bit?
Yeah, bear with me 1 second. Is that any better? Hello?
A little bit.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, Ronald Wasmer, professional engineer, land surveyor with an office at 158 Research Drive, Milford, Connecticut, here representing Beechwood LLC. Excuse me for 1 second. Lost the PowerPoint. Sorry about that. Also with me this evening is Matt Pop. Matt is a professional wetland scientist and landscape architect, and the applicants are also present. We're here this evening to present information for IW 25-001. The project address is 19-37 Gould Lane. As this is a public hearing, I will reiterate some of the information that I presented at the last meeting. Jamie, if you could share the screen, I would appreciate that. I would like to start with the existing condition survey. Thank you very much. So I'm going to describe the site. North is orientated towards the top of the page. It is bounded on the north by Gould. The property is bounded on the north by Gould Lane. It is bounded on the east by residential homes that front on Gould Lane and by land of the Branford Land Trust. It is bounded by the south by residential lots that front on Beechwood Lane. The parcel itself has 123 feet of frontage on Beechwood Lane at the end of the cul-de-sac, and it is bounded on the west by the Branford Railroad. Property is approximately 12.5 acres, contains 2 large wooded wetland swamps. The wetlands were delineated by William Kenny, professional soil scientist. Mr. Kenny and I attended the site walk with the commission on February 24th.
Hello?
This is Commissioner Basserman. Some folks are having difficulty hearing.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I'm speaking.
I just wanted to voice my thoughts on the project so far.
We're going to have that opportunity later this evening.
Later.
Right now it's the applicant's time
The
to
applicant
present.
is speaking.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you know when that time might be?
No. We have the applicant and the commission first.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
Wonderful. Carry on.
Mr. Wasmer, can you increase the volume? I got some comments from people saying they're having difficulty hearing.
Yes, I just did. How's that?
That's better for me.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay, so I was describing the property. It's fronted a portion on Beechwood Road at the end of the cul-de-sac, and then it's bounded along the west by the Branford Railroad. The property is approximately 12.5 acres, contains 2 large wooded wetland swamps. These 2 swamps are connected by a small drainage pipe that runs through a small section of upland area. The wetlands were delineated by William Kenny of William Kenny Associates, professional soil scientist. Mr. Kenny and I attended a site walk with the commission on February 24th, 2025. Now I'd like to switch to the subdivision plan, which is the next sheet. The proposal is to divide this 12.5 acre parcel into 3 residential lots and 1 lot to be dedicated to the Branford Land Trust. The land that is to be dedicated to the Branford Land Trust is contiguous to existing land of the Land Trust. Lot number 1 is to the northwest, that fronts on Gould Lane. Lot number 2 is central to the property, that also fronts on Gould Lane, and it's an L-shaped lot with some land to the rear of number 39 Gould Lane. And then lot number 3 fronts on Beechwood Road at the cul-de-sac. If we can, you can notice on this sheet the 100-foot inland wetland review area. Now we're going to touch base on the next sheet, which we have titled as zoning compliance plan. Really, the purpose of this plan is to demonstrate compliance with the subdivision regulations for lot size, square footage, frontage, etc. However, the reason I wanted to point this sheet out is it shows the proximity of the proposed houses to the wetlands. The sheets that we're going to review in a brief moment contain a lot more information, and this one just kind of clearly shows you the proximity of the houses to the wetlands. So the house on lot number 1 is approximately 57.8 feet to the wetlands. The house on lot number 2, I actually didn't dimension, but it's outside of your 100-foot review area. And then the house on lot number 3 is 37 feet to the inland wetland area. I want to point out that there's no direct impact to the wetlands, that there's no filling or intrusion into the wetlands proposed. Now we're going to step forward to sheet number 5. This is entitled the Grading and Drainage Plan. As I mentioned, this plan is busier with a lot more information, so I wanted to just point out the location of the houses before we got to this plan. So this plan does indicate the location of the proposed houses, the wetland review area, the existing and the proposed grades are shown on the plan. The topography is generally gently sloping in the areas of proposed grading, therefore minimal excavation or filling is required. This plan indicates proposed storm drainage with the intent of this storm drainage to attenuate the 25-year storm of 24-hour rainfall event. This is accomplished with shallow infiltration galleys, roof gutters, and driveway drainage is directed towards these infiltration galleys. This week I received some comments from the town engineer. Specifically, he noted that the rainfall events in excess of 25-year storm were not addressed. I apologize for this. It was my understanding that the regulations required the 25-year storm as the design parameter. However, in light of the town engineer's comments, I will modify the plan to attenuate the 100-year rainfall event. I received those comments earlier this week. I did not have time prior to the evening's meeting to submit revised plans, I will do so next week. The proposed houses will connect to public water and sewer located in the public streets. So we can just briefly walk through each lot. Lot number 1 is on the screen at the moment. So you can see the proposed house, and then we have the galleys running parallel with the topography. That's where we will direct roof drainage.
Excuse me, Mr. Wassmer. Commissioner Goklowski, one quick question. Do you know the size of the proposed houses that they plan on putting on each lot?
They're about 30 by 60. I don't know. I don't have the exact dimensions. These houses are proposed as feasibility. Individual applications will be presented for each individual lot. There's 3 lots. So when the permit is pulled, a plan will be submitted.
Okay, so they're gonna be they're not gonna build the houses on spec. They're gonna pre-sell the houses. Is that correct?
That's a reasonable comment. I can't guarantee that they won't sell a lot individually.
So does that mean the land will sit empty?
Excuse me. Oh, this is a question from the commissioner, and the applicant has the floor.
So it is possible that they will offer these lots for sale. Again, it's 3 lots. We had mentioned in the last time we spoke, there's really no public infrastructure here. There's no roads to be built. There's no community storm drainage systems that needs to be built. So these lots kind of stand individually on their own. So if someone chooses to buy a lot, or if the applicant chooses to develop a house different than what we've proposed, we'll come back for an individual application on that lot. So this is, the intent here was for wetland approval for feasibility for a subdivision. Does that answer your question?
All right. I appreciate your candor on that. It was just a question that was on my mind. So I do appreciate it. And I'm sorry, you can continue.
Okay. So there's lot number 1. The driveway comes off of Gould Lane. We have a small turnaround so cars can exit back into Gould Lane in a forward direction. The galley system, which is most relevant to the commission, is parallel to the contours. Again, it's designed for a 25-year storm. There'll be a slight modification to this to address the city and the town engineer's comments of attenuating the 100-year storm. One of the features that's on this plan is a wooden split rail fence. It's set approximately 15 feet off of the wetlands, and that will act as a barrier to accidental intrusion by the future homeowner, as well as notification placards placed along the fence. And I'm sure that you have some conditions in your approval that require notification on the land records also. Lot number 2, we can briefly touch base on that. This one, the house itself is outside of the 100-foot review area. The storm galleys are just inside the 100-foot review area. And then lot number 3, which fronts on Gould Lane. So if you can recall from the site walk, there's an existing block building garage that's on this lot. The proposed house is generally sitting in the same location as the existing house. This lot has a little bit steeper topography, but we're utilizing the flattest portion of the lot, so it's gentle topography in the area of the proposed house. We can touch base on the next sheet, which is the sedimentation and erosion control plan. So on this plan, we're indicating the silt fence as well as anti-tracking pads. In areas where we're closest to the wetlands, we've indicated a double row of silt fence. We have a note there about proposed wetland enhancement plantings, which are listed on the plan. I do want to say that this evening with me is Matt Pop, a professional wetland biologist. Matt has recommendations for buffer plantings, and his recommendations may supersede the plantings that I've indicated on this plan, and we will modify the plan that I prepared, or Matt will provide a separate plan with his recommendations for plantings. I do want to address one question that I recall from the site walk, which was the direction of flow of the wetlands. So the lands of this property, as well as surrounding properties, drains into this property. This wetland then drains underneath Gould Lane to a wetland adjacent to I-95 into the rear of the houses on I-95. And then it flows through a culvert under I-95 and then enters a water course that flows westerly for a short distance and then northerly, and to the best of my understanding, it eventually discharges into the Branford River. At this time, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Matt, and then I'll entertain any questions from the commission. Thank you.
Good evening. Ron, maybe you could put back one of your plans. My name is Matthew Pop. I'm a licensed landscape architect and professional wetland scientist with Environmental Land Solutions. We're out of Norwalk. I work on many projects with Ron through kind of western Connecticut. So I prepared some comments, just so I would call it a wetland narrative, and I described the wetlands and the site conditions, and then I just had some recommendations for the site. I visited the site with Ron on March 19th of this year. We walked, kind of the northern half. We walked the upland areas, starting with the northern half. When you're kind of the northwest corner of the site, it's lots of fill piles. It's, the fill piles are probably, 3 to 4 feet in height. Kind of tough to walk over them. So that's indication of past disturbance. Also, throughout that area, there's a lot of ornamental plantings in stands. Actually, in the south end of the site too, same thing. Those plants, Leucothea, Pieris, rhododendrons, and Japanese holly, they're planted as if it was a nursery yard at one time, and they were just never used, and they still remain. The woods around the in the northern half of the site are vegetated mainly with oaks, white oak, red maples. There's some mountain laurel, again the Japanese holly. There's a few American hollies, Pachysandra, Christmas fern, vinca, grape, ground pine. When you get to the northeast section of the site, it's kind of an open field or successional field. And those are dominated mainly by warm season grasses and a lot of red cedars, small red cedar and white pine saplings. Going across to the southern portion of the site, Ron mentioned that there's a kind of an abandoned 2-car garage. On the north side of that garage, there's an abandoned car. So be happy to get that out of the site. Again, over there, the same thing. There's lots of stands of Pieris and Leucothea, which are 2 kind of ornamental plantings. They're evergreen. So kind of surprised to see them. That's just an indication that, again, the site was probably a nursery yard at one time. As Ron noted, the wetland I would describe as a swamp. Swamp's different from like a wooded wetland, mainly because there's a standing water in it. A wooded wetland would be, you could walk across it without getting, your ankles wet. But the swamp, it probably has standing water to, maybe 2 to 3 feet in depths in some places. the water does flow to the north. I did check the natural diversity database for wildlife. That indicates if there's any species of special concern, threatened, or rare, and the site is not highlighted on the DEEP map, so there's no known record of kind of uncommon species. I do have a list of wildlife that I heard. When I went there right away, you could hear the spring peepers within the swamp areas. Uh, the peepers are a common frog. They're very small. Occasionally, you'll see them or hear them in very, very small ponding areas, even abandoned tires where the water collects. You can get spring peepers in there. I didn't hear any wood frogs. I did see blue jay, chickadee, kind of white-throated sparrow, red-winged blackbird, red-shouldered hawk by the train track, squirrel, and evidence of white-tailed deer. Somewhat species that I expected to see out there on the site. I did list the functions that the wetlands provide. Swamps are they're very valuable. They provide a lot of functions, and just list a few of them that this wetland provides. One is groundwater discharge, flood water storage. Another one, sediment retention. Any sediment from upland areas gets retained in them. A nutrient removal by plant uptake. That means the wetland vegetation kind of cleanses water by removing plants removing fertilizers and pollutants from the water by plant uptake, so the plants absorb them. Wildlife habitat provides production export, which mainly means food. And it does have some recreational uses such as wildlife observation in this one. Ron went over kind of the proposed development. He did have some plantings proposed. I'm just going to go through the what I was recommending. I had four recommendations. One is Ron had in the planting buffer. It was somewhat general, the locations of the plantings, but I would say that we wanted the plantings to be a little bit more dense, down slope of any level spread or where the stormwater is discharged. So again, I probably would have maybe a double row of plantings in those areas. I always try to have that the extra plantings down slope of any discharge point. The second mitigation or measure I would recommend is planting of shade trees along the street at 30 feet on center, plus or minus. A shade tree such as pin oaks, red maples, sugar maples. They provide a shading of the asphalt, which reduces thermal pollution, which you don't want the stormwater runoff to get heated and flow into the swamp. We want the water flowing into the swamp to be as cool as possible. The third is there is some burning bush out there on the site. Just to remove that by hand cutting at the ground level. I don't think we want to be yanking it out because it will be pretty close to the wetlands. So I get just cutting it down to the ground level, probably twice per year for a 2-year period for each lot. So I think that would be some notes when each lot comes in that they would get. Those notes would be on a plan for each of those lots. The fourth is to include spice bush and northern bayberry in the plant mix. Some of those species that were specified, I think the deer prefer those maybe over the northern bayberry and the spice bush. So I use those two plants quite a bit. So I probably would swap some of those plants in the list with the spice bush and northern bayberry. Well, again, all of these plantings are native. Probably could even add Amelanchier shad, downy shadblow Amelanchier, which is a small understory tree within those wetland buffer. Just see. And I think when we include those 4 mitigation measures, I think that would help to enhance the wetland buffer and kind of maintain the functions of the wetland. I do like the idea of the demarcation fence along the wetland buffer. Everything upslope of that fence, will be possibly maintained landscape. Everything downslope of that is be left in a natural habitat. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
This is Commissioner Begamon, if no one else has a question for the commission. Question to
I have
both
a
Ron.
question.
Just
As
a
an
quick
NZ
reminder, we're still at the commissioners right now. We'll let you know when we're opening it up for public comment.
Very well then.
This Commissioner Basserman, I do see that contrary to what was explained at the beginning of the meeting, people are using the chat. And this is not in accordance with trying to be transparent.
Well,
so please.
for now, I would say, sorry. I would say please refrain from using the chat and hold on to your questions, but we will read what's been entered into the chat when we get to the public comment section.
Go ahead, Mr. Begerman.
Commissioner Begamon, question about the use of galleys and what the first question has to do with homeowner maintenance of galleys. If you can speak to what is the typical need for homeowners to take care of galleys. I don't remember seeing galleys other than like in commercial. And so it may be common in homes, but want to know about the need for a homeowner. My concern there is a dry well, so to speak, or a galley that fills up with sediment has to be maintained. And I read the report from Mr. Pop about not having standing water, such as rain gardens, because of the frogs that are in the natural wetlands, and that they could be fooled to using those temporary rain gardens, and that would be bad for them. But are there other low impact development options, such as swales, where the water can be diverted or without causing ponds? Thanks.
Sure. So the galleys themselves are generally maintenance free, prior to the contractor completing his work, constructing the house and the work on the lot. It will be their responsibility, and it's I believe it's on our plans to clean any sediment that's entered into the galley area. After that, once the lawn is established, it's unlikely that you'll see much sediment entering the galleys. The roof drains are tied directly into the galley system. This allows for infiltration back into the groundwater. We use it commonly for many years, actually. Swales would work. They don't have quite the capacity. And it also does have the potential for standing water, which I was unaware of this until the site walk with Matt, where he mentioned to me that having standing water adjacent to the wetlands for a short period of time is considered a decoy pond. Again, that's the first time I heard of it, but that can dry up quickly. So if any frogs or other amphibious creatures that come out of the wetlands then decide to nest in that shallow area, that could dry up quickly, and then that would be detrimental to
the Matt Pop, landscape architect. Almost every project these days have underground detention galleries. I don't recall one that doesn't have them. Another feature that is used more and more often is a porous asphalt, where the water flows through the asphalt into a gravel bed underneath. And the maintenance issue comes up on that and how to keep the asphalt clean. Rain gardens, try to use them maybe more in urban areas where in a denser residential areas where there's not like a wildlife issue. But we do use rain gardens quite a bit. But in this situation next to the swamp, I probably would recommend, against that.
This is Commissioner Basserman. Can you speak to Mr. Wasmer to the construction timeline, the schedule of events, so to speak, as you take on development of this site?
So once we complete the wetland application process, we're going to submit to the zoning for subdivision approval. I presume that'll take us a month or two to get through that process. And then the applicant.
I was referring to the construction sequence.
Right. I was leading up to that. And then the applicants will decide if they want to actually construct these houses or sell these lots. If they choose to sell the lots, then it will depend on the market's pretty hot, so I think things will get sold quickly. If they do choose to build a house, or if they sell the lot and someone else chooses to build the house, I'd say it's between a 9 to 12 months process from start to finish to do the site work, pour the foundation, frame the house, do all the internal work of the house, finish site grading, establish lawn areas.
As a follow-up, this Commissioner Basserman, would it be prudent, not only prudent, but advantageous to try to develop the grading and all of that at one time as opposed to on a lot-by-lot basis?
So there's minimal grading required for any of these lots. Again, as we mentioned previously, there's no public infrastructure, there's no roads. You're changing grades by a foot or 2 feet, really just to level out the spot to build the house and level out a driveway. So I don't believe it's beneficial to do any site grading until you're ready to begin and complete the work.
And there's no stockpiling requirement?
There could be small stockpiles of topsoil that get stockpiled as a result of where they're going to excavate for the house. We can indicate those on the plan and put them as far away from the wetlands as feasible, and we can also surround them with a silt fence.
Appreciate that.
I'd just like to add that, in like any of the stockpiles, we don't want them to be, under any trees to remain, because we don't want to compact the soil of existing trees.
Thank you, Matt.
This is Commissioner Papantonis. So is it lot 3 is that a much bigger lot than the other ones? And how are you going to protect the wetlands on that particular lot?
So lot 3 is bigger in area. It has a significant portion of wetlands. Its upland area is probably smaller than the other 2 lots. It's the one that fronts on Beechwood. We have similar features here. The silt fence for erosion control, actually a double row of silt fence, anti-tracking pads, and then we have the split rail fence with the wetland notification markers, as well as any land record documentation that your commission typically requires as a condition of a permit. I know you asked about lot 3, but there was something I recalled with lot number 2, that progressive, Matt used a great word and I forgot it now, succession field. We have no activity proposed back there, so we did not carry erosion control along there, but we did indicate cedar posts with wetland placards, just so the future homeowner of lot number 2, when they wander back there, which it's inevitable, that they will see that there are wetlands. I'm sure they'll be aware of it when they buy the lot, but it's always good to have a physical notification on the property. So again, there's not a lot of erosion control going on in the rear of lot number 2, but we do have notification markers. Thank you.
This is Commissioner Gokowski. Mr. Wassemer, based on what my understanding is at this stage of the game, lot 3 is going to exit not on Gould Lane, but that where we feet on Beechwood?
That's correct. The proposed driveway comes out to Beechwood, as well as the utilities for lot number 3 are in Beechwood, which is a public road, so public water, public sewer. And again, here we have some,
And all the other utilities on the other 2 lots are going to come in from Gould Lane?
that's correct.
This is Commissioner Papantonis. I want to go back to lot 3 again, because I understand that there's wetlands to the west also there, right?
To
Am I
the
correct?
west and to the east, and if you're on the site walk, you could recall we walked through a kind of a overgrown woods road that
Right.
connected.
But I want to know about the other side though, because I think
So yeah,
you
there's
talked
wetlands
about
to
this.
the west where Jamie has is pushing the little hand around. Yeah, that's all wetlands up until close to the Branford Railroad.
So you're putting the split rail fence there on that lot also?
Yes, we are. Yes, double row of silt fence and then a split rail fence surrounding that property.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. The line with the circular dots is the erosion controls, and the line with the square dots is where the split rail fence is proposed.
Matt Pop, again, that house is located right where there's an existing kind of abandoned car. And right, I think just right where it says deck, just maybe where the K is or so, just to the north of that, I think is where the abandoned car is located.
Jamie
Robin
Frederick.
Wasmer again. So our clients bought this property about 18 months ago. So this car or any other debris that you see on this site is not a result of them. And of course, they'll be cleaning this up.
The car looks like it's been there for 15 years, maybe more.
This is Commissioner Armrod. I got a few questions, mostly for Mr. Wasmer, if I may. So I guess just to clarify, so this application is for the subdivision of one lot into 4 smaller lots, 3 of which are proposed to be developed into residential purposes. And did you mention earlier that you will be submitting applications for each individual residential lot in the future if the project gets to that point?
Yes, I did.
Thank
I
you.
did state that. Yes. These houses are feasible and typical, but someone may want something that's slightly different, so that would require coming back to your commission.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. To clarify, so I mean, the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission regulates activities. So theoretically, by reviewing this application, if the commission were to grant a permit, it would be for the activities shown on the subdivision plan. So if they were to say, you know what, I like the house drawn on this plan, I'm going to develop it the way it's shown on the plan, then it could be developed under the permit that would have been issued. If they're like, you know what, I want to have a house that's 1.5 times this size, then they would need a new permit showing new stormwater, confirming their limits of disturbance, anything else that they might be looking to change or would need to change to accommodate other proposed changes. That would be typically how we would address it.
Yeah, thank you. Perfect. Thanks, Jamie and Mr. Wasmer. I appreciate it. My next question on sheet, this is subdivision sheet, I believe it's 3 of 7. I'm looking at the specs for the lots. So the parcel area, I think I understand. The lot, can you explain to me what the lot area is and why? And you're saying that the entire lot area is within the upland. Is that the upland review area, or is it just area you're calling upland?
Well, there's 2 types of land. in regards to wetlands. There's upland areas, which are non-wetlands, and then are wetlands. So part of the requirements for zoning is that you have to provide the minimum lot area of that zone. So you have various zones around town. This happens to be zone 4. So you need to provide upland area equivalent to the minimum lot size of that area.
All right, yeah. So I guess for the purposes of this, oh, sorry, Commissioner Ormrod. I get for the purposes of this commission, I think it would be helpful if we could get a table on one of these sheets, maybe the proposed conditions, the subdivision sheet, showing, what is the acreage, square footage of activities within the upland review area, and I guess for completion's sake, what are the activities proposed in wetland areas? I understand that to be none at this time, but it would just be helpful for us to reference a table with some figures rather than go by. I see you have the line on there, a 100-foot upland review line area, but I don't know if you have a table like that somewhere, but it would be helpful.
We could do that. Yes, we can.
Okay.
We
Great.
can define each lot with a square footage of development area, which would generally be anything upland of that 15-foot buffer area. And just to reiterate, you did make the comment. To reiterate, there's no proposed activity within the wetlands. So.
Okay, right.
Amy Frederick and the wetland agent. So you would be looking for a table with the information shown under general information for each lot rather than for the overall lot as a whole.
Yeah, I think it would
or
be
in addition to.
I think it would be helpful to have the proposed activities within the upland review area for each lot, just so that we could get a better understanding of what those activities are, for each lot, because the layouts are a little different for each lot. Some of the features seem to be a little different, so that would be helpful.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, so we already, I just wanted to do the water quality or the stormwater calculation. So I believe you said, per the town engineer's comments, you will do the calculations for the larger storm events. I can't remember what they are, but it's like the 50 or 75 and 100 or something along those lines. But those are going to be added to the what is it? Your stormwater report.
That's correct. We designed this for a 25-year storm, which is typical, and it's what I understood from the regulations, but maybe I misunderstood because the town engineer made the comment that we needed to address the larger storms, as you said, the 50, the 75, the 100. Actually, I don't think there's a 75, but the 50 and the 100. And so we will address his comments and provide updated information to both the commission and the town engineer.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. My next question. So this maybe Mr. Pop can weigh in, but so you mentioned about invasive species and in that plan, there's some sort of long-term commitments to cut back burning bush a few times a year, that the plant materials to be left out in the sun, dried till dead. That's it's kind of a big commitment, and we don't really know if these, who's going to be responsible for doing that work. Is there any, I guess, any more details we could have there in terms of, who would be responsible for implementing and maintaining, upholding that plan?
So typically, Matt Pop, the applicant for each lot when they come in, those notes get put on the plan. And then there's also the plantings that go. The mitigation plantings are also part of that. I would say same package, mitigation package. So some towns, people require to post a bond. It's like maybe a third of the cost of the plantings. Some have up to, whatever X amount of money. And then that money is held for, a year or two, just to make sure that the plants are alive and the burning bush is, controlled.
Okay, so yeah, sounds like, thank you. That will be handled under the applications, should the project get to that point.
Yes.
Okay, great. I think that's all I have right now. Thank you. I appreciate it.
This is Commissioner Basserman. Mr. Wassman, one of the town engineer's comments had to do with drainage to a neighboring driveway. Is that being addressed in the revised plan?
Yes, it will.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Begeman. There, in the letter from the town engineer, there were the other questions about some of the calculations for post-development exceeded pre-development. Was that addressed by already?
The question's been raised. I did allude to the fact that this town engineer commented that we needed to address the larger storms. And
right.
At this point, we have not.
Right.
We will update the plans and submit them to the town engineer for his review, as well as to the commission. So you'll, the next set of plans that you see, there'll be some changes to the storm drainage system.
Yeah, Commissioner Begeman, it's a separate question he had, that some of the post-development volumes exceeded the pre-development. Is that the same thing that you're talking about? I don't think so.
Yes, it is. Yes, that's the same thing.
Yes. Okay. In the wetland agent, yeah, that aligns with the town engineer's comments. So basically, the inland wetland and watercourses regulations require, if initiated, which is just the type of project where we would likely initiate it, that the applicant show stormwater calculations through the 100-year storm. So that has been provided. However, the commission also looks to see that there's no increase in peak flows or total volumes leaving the site. So right now there's a couple of increases in peak flows, and that's what the applicant is looking to address, and just didn't have time since they received those comments.
Okay, and Commissioner Begeman, there's all the hydrology reports with all the graphs and numbers. Is there any summary narrative that can be?
Yes.
I didn't see a narrative.
There is a summary that was included. It's dated January 27th, 2025. Yes.
Yeah, so document 4, and then a summary of the volumes or the calculations is document 11.
So that document's 7 pages long, and it's a little easier to follow from someone that's not versed in hydrology.
Commissioner Begeman, thank you for that. And then when Matt was asking about the tables, it reminded me, do we typically have pervious and impervious surface calculations, and are they somewhere in the application? Jamie, is that something that we or Peter?
Jamie Frederick in the wetland agent. It's not a typical requirement. Sometimes we'll get it because it is a requirement at the planning and zoning level. But it's not a requirement of the wetlands and watercourses regulations.
This is Commissioner Basserman. With the changes that you know that you need to address, what kind of time frame do we think it would take to pull that all together? Are we going to be in complete for the April 10 meeting, or do you need more time than that?
I'd like to get these done next week. That gives, so I have to kind of look at the calendar. How quick does the next meeting come up? Today's the 27th. Next Thursday's the 3rd. So it's 2 weeks from today. It could be a tight squeeze for us and then the town engineer to have the opportunity to review that. Yes.
And in the wetland staff as well.
Right. So we'll do our best to get this in as quickly as possible. And if the town engineer is satisfied, then we can proceed. And if there's still modifications to be made or questions to be addressed with the town engineer, we'll table it at the next meeting.
This Commissioner Rassman, Jamie, we don't have any issue with the clock on if it goes and extends to the next meeting, do we?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, no, we would not need an extension to continue to the April 24th meeting.
Thank you.
And if the item were to be tabled at the April 10th meeting, we could note that ahead of time on the agenda, so any members of the public interested in attending would know that the item will not be discussed and that it will be continued to April 24th.
This is Commissioner Goklowski. I have a small concern, and I know the access to the property on Beechwood is pretty cut and dry because it's right there at the apron and it's going to be going right on the property, the driveway. But on Gould Lane, is there going to be, I really can't figure out where the proposed driveways are going to go, and I'm just concerned that they are going to encroach more on the wetland side.
We can look at if you look at the zoning layout sheet, it shows the proposed driveways heading out to Gould Lane. Jamie's pointing out lot number 1, and there's lot number 2.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission?
Commissioner Bangamon again. With the water quality calculations, they were done on the 3 lots, not including lot 4.
Correct.
They were just
Lot 4 is more or less a wooded swamp, and so there's really, we're not proposing any development, so there's no need to provide anything, nor could we, to be honest with you. So no need. There's no need to provide water quality, nor I don't think that we could. We'd be putting water quality features inside of a wetland, so yeah, it wouldn't work.
And Commissioner Bangamon, another question. On the site plans, are there limits of disturbance noted?
I believe the intent is the limits of disturbance is the silt fence.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. I believe I had that question, and so I believe that was added to the plans for clarification.
It's stated as clearing limits. I think we addressed that in the letter to you, Jamie.
Yeah, I think it's also on the right. Here we go, clearing limits, and it points to the silt fence.
Yes.
Sorry, Jamie, Commissioner Bangamon, can you just read that again? What does it say?
So there's a call out for clearing limits, and it generally points to the silt fence on each lot. Okay. I do want to just make one comment in regards to lot 2. So the split rail fence, and I think this was in a response to a comment I had made. It originally followed the silt fence, and it might make sense that it follows that in the sense that that's the clearing limits. So it helps keep that limit for the future property owner. I had mentioned that it could cause some confusion because they have the split rail fence following that clearing limit line. And then they also had these markers 30 feet off of the wetland. I haven't really seen the clearing limit, or not, sorry, the notification placards approximately 30 feet off of the wetland. I think that could be confusing because somebody might think that's the limit of where they can do activity. When there's 100-foot upland review area.
Sure, that's a valid point. So we can put a note on lot number 2. So right now it says no clearing proposed in this area, but we could put a note that any additional activity would require a permit from the commission.
Commissioner Begamon again. There were some in lot 2. There were some old cement pipes down at the bottom, and I know you've addressed getting rid of the car. Is there a narrative about getting rid of the car and those pipes, the car in lot 3, or is it just considered part of the process of cleaning up the lots? Because I think those cement pipes in lot 2 are in the wetland. Or near it.
That could be the commission's prerogative here. Certainly the car is going to go. There's no question about that. The concrete pipes it's an inert material. They're there now. Bringing the machine in to move them. It's not a monumental task, but at the same time, they're not causing any damage to the wetlands that they didn't cause whatever 30 years ago when they were put there. So it is an eyesore, so perhaps the applicant would like to remove those. It can be done gingerly, I guess. There's probably a more scientific word than that, but with minimal impact to the wetlands.
Jamie Frederick.
The dry time of the year, put down a tracking mat to get in there to take them out. So.
Do you know where those pipes are situated relative to the proposed enhancement planting area?
No, but like I can add those to the.
We've got some wetland flags here, so it looks like it might be located in that area. So if that's the case, it might make it more conducive to the removal.
We can add those. We can survey where those are and add them to the plan. I'll discuss it with the applicant. I presume they probably want to take them out. Just certainly in this picture, they look a little more less attractive than the natural wetlands.
And Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. I think the other question I have is regarding these proposed enhancement areas. Will there be additional information on not only the species, but kind of like the density at the very least, and or like the extent of disturbance to be anticipated? Like, is it the only removal going to be removal of invasives or only specifically burning bush? Just kind of more like what level of disturbance is proposed or expected in those areas?
So we can modify this plan to address that, and or Matt can provide a plan. So I'll work together with Matt and decide what's the most prudent ways for us to modify our plan based on his recommendations, or he can submit a separate plan.
Reasonable.
This is Commissioner Armrod. Yeah, thank you, Jamie, for asking that. I was going to say, if possible, if we could update, I think it's on the sediment and erosion control sheet, the planting plan. Yeah, it's on sheet 6 of 7. Yeah, if we could incorporate somehow, either the mitigation measures in Mr. Pop's March 25th wetland narrative letter. They're listed on page 3, the recommended mitigation measures. If we could somehow get those on a plan, or transfer them onto the sediment and erosion control plan, that would be great.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, and I think this is another case where having it broken out by lot would be helpful.
I'm sure.
This is Commissioner Bagman. Just clarifying question or statement. Am I correct that given that there's no direct wetland impact, that the mitigation that's being proposed rather by the applicant is being done to improve the site? It's not being done because it's required by the commission because of any direct impact on the wetland by development, correct?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, that's correct. There's no requirement for mitigation. This is something that the applicant has decided they thought would be beneficial and help mitigate the development impacts. Any relative development impacts to the wetland areas. And of course, if the applicant wants to provide any additional insight on that, they're welcome to.
I agree with what Jamie said. For this particular application, we did change the word to enhancement versus mitigation but to be honest with you, we've been using the term mitigation I've been doing this for probably 30 years. Mitigation doesn't necessarily mean that you're filling wetlands. It just means that we're providing enhancements in the buffer area for protection of the wetlands, increased habitat, increased water quality.
Mr. Vassman, any other questions from the commission for Mr. Wasmer or Mr. Pop?
This is Commissioner Bagman. Going back to what Matt and Jamie were talking about, if this were to get approved as is with some of the per lot planting stuff added on, as we just discussed, is there anything else that we feel we need in case somebody says, yes, I want it exactly the way it is, and they can start developing it? I'm just trying to think if there's anything else.
I think Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, I think generally the commission has some standard language that they apply about so while the mitigation or enhancement plantings, whatever you want to call it, isn't required, it is immediately adjacent to the wetland. So it is important that if it's going to be done, that it's done properly. So I think generally speaking, the commission would look for that work to be overseen by a soil scientist to make sure that the correct things are being removed and planted, and that the things are being planted in appropriate spots. And also the commission has required monitoring reports in the past. So those would be things that you could look for. You could request that the applicant submit, an outline of, or some bullet points to address those points right in the application materials so that you can review what they're proposing.
I have kind of a comment and a question because I don't have a tremendous amount of experience with the Branford, but typically when a subdivision is approved, then permits are obtained for individual lots, whether through the planning and zoning process or the building department. And at that point, I presume that there's some sort of interaction with the wetland agency. And if Jamie saw that a proposed house was significantly different than what was approved in the plan, that would be a trigger to tell the applicant, whoever they may be, that they need to come back to the commission. Now, I'm not sure if that's the way it works in Branford, but it seems.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, yeah. So when a building permit application is submitted, I am put in for review, and I would be able to identify that. I think the concern is if it comes in and it is substantially the same, making sure that the planting plan and any expected compliance or anything to implement that plan is already built into the to the application materials and any permit that might be issued.
Understood.
This is Commissioner Bossman, and wouldn't we, when we are looking at potential conditions of approval, address that in that piece of work?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, potentially, and/or the applicant could propose that information in the revised materials and build it right into the site plan, mitigation plan, whatever it is, however they decide to present that information and say, you know, we're proposing to do X, Y, and Z. And, you know, I would expect it to be on a lot by lot basis, right? Because we already know that these might be developed independently. We want to keep everything separate. We don't want lot 2 to be held up by lot 1 or vice versa. So, yeah.
Anything else? I guess the commission rests at this point. You got a boat full of comments to readdress. And I think it's appropriate at this point to now allow the public to speak. I'm going to remind folk that this is a inland wetland commission, and so we have regulations regarding wetlands and water courses. We're not the Planning and Zoning Commission, so the comments that we want to hear from the public address concerns about wetlands and water courses, as opposed to things that are not part of our jurisdiction. So we have, I think, a hand raised. Is it Mr. Murray?
It is. Thank you for addressing my concerns and questions. One, I'd like to thank the committee. First off, I benefit from everything that you do in protecting the wildlife around me. And I am the property owner at 38 Beechwood Road, which is immediately adjacent lot 3 that's proposed to be built on. And I can appreciate this forum right now because it's created probably more questions than we have time to address for me with concerns on that. But the first thank you is in what you do to protect the wildlife. And I have a large question as to the amount of species that I see and record on a regular basis in that area to find out what assurances have been done to protect them. It seems like a few were brought up by people from out of town that have stopped by briefly to see what they are. But I have dozens and dozens of different species that I frankly enjoy seeing on a regular basis in my yard and film adjacent to those properties. I have a vast list of those I'd be happy to read off to if that is something that at this time is appropriate.
Again, we're a jurisdiction regarding water courses and wetlands. If you have a listed species, rather than take the time to list them, if you could send a brief email regarding those species, I guess we could include that in the record.
Yeah, absolutely. Who would I address that to?
Jamie.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. You can send it to me. I'll put my email address in the chat. Can't do two things at once.
Thank you, Jamie. I'll copy that and I'll get that out to you. And forgive me if I'm going outside of the scope of the commission. Not my expertise here, just a property owner with concerns in the area.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, certainly understood. So just because I'm sure there's a lot of people in the same boat, the commission can only regulate impacts to wildlife as it relates to physical impacts to wetlands and watercourses. That's established per state statute and case law. But I would say send over that list. I can forward it to the applicant and they can provide any comments that, you know, might be appropriate or things that they maybe can provide for, even if it's not necessarily within the purview of this agency.
Great. Jamie, would physical impact include, there's sort of a land bridge between property north and south, if you will, that flows between Beechwood and Gould. which is a migratory pattern for the deer and the wildlife that cut through the two wetlands on either side of that. I think Ron had brought that up on the map. I don't know if that's part of that or not.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, I'm not sure the scope of your comment. And what impact to that land bridge are you referring to?
So if properties are developed, there's a land bridge between the north and south properties, or the Gould and Beechwood, if you will, that living here, I can see where that floods and the water goes significantly higher than it's been lately. At those times, there's no passing that area. But if a property of the size and scope that's proposed to be built there, it would seem very disruptive because that is right in the path of that bridge for the animals that travel through there.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. Peter, do you want to have the applicant respond to comments as they are raised, or do you want to kind of have them take note and respond afterwards?
I think the latter would be better at this point, because the back and forth might, extend the time here, and we're already, on a clock. So why don't we hold it and the applicant can respond?
Okay. So the applicant will take note of that and respond later in the meeting or at the next meeting, potentially, depending on how time goes. Did you have any additional comments at this time?
I do. I just wanted to be fair to give others a chance to address them as well. But I will jump right in until somebody's hand comes up because
there are hands up.
There are hands up.
So
my apologies.
If you want a break, we can let somebody else talk.
Sure. Let's be fair.
Real quick, Mr. Chairman, do you want me to read what's in the chat first, or do you want me to read the chat after we've had all the comments from people with hands raised?
Yeah, I think, people that took the time and now are raising their hands deserve their spot. So I see a hand raised from Patricia Esposito.
Good
Esposito?
Yes, hi, good evening. I'm a property owner, 39 Beechwood. I live across from Brian. So my property abuts the lot 3. My concern is that we have a storm drain right at where the proposed driveway for that property, where the building is supposed to be made. And I'm just wondering if the impact to runoff into that storm drain has been considered. That storm drain goes directly into the wetlands.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. I believe this is the storm drain you're talking about at the end of the Beechwood Road cul-de-sac.
That's right.
All right. So again, I think we're taking responses from the applicant after all public comment has been received. So do you have any additional questions?
Geez, I jotted something down. I was concerned about the standing water in that area. In the years that we get lots of rain, there's standing water there, 10 months out of the year. And that's with the benefit of, the natural drainage with the wetlands and the trees and things like that. When we think about what's going to happen in that area when we now have impervious surfaces and the buildings, my concern is that area there is going to continue to have, it's a very poorly, as a sign, the drainage there is very poor as it is. So in
Frederick,
terms of changing, the wetlands when you have buildings and the trees are gone and so on.
okay. Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, just for clarification, do you mean standing water in and adjacent to the wetlands, or do you mean standing water around the catch basin?
I'm talking about in the wetlands. I have a very significant drop off on the back end of my property, and it becomes more level towards the front end of the property. And 10 months out of the year, we've got standing water there.
Okay. Anything else, Ms. Esposito?
That's it for now. That just comes to mind. Thank you.
I see a hand raised from Mr. Guthrie.
Hello, my name is Joshua Guthrie. I'm a property owner on Well Sweep Road, adjacent to the train tracks on the other side of one of the lots, lot 1, I believe. One of the questions I have is I have a septic tank with a leaching field, and I wonder about the water table changing with new properties on the other side of the wetlands and how that might affect the local properties' water tables and therefore the water quality locally. And then one last small question. I noticed that the walk was on February 24th, and I've been here for since 2018, and February seemed to be one of the driest area in the area. I mean, even if you went now, it's quite a bit more saturated than it was in February. So I just wanted to make that small point. That's it.
This is Commissioner Bassman. In the event that we conclude the public section of the public hearing, prior to that 2-hour limit, maybe an opportunity for the applicant to respond to some of these questions this evening, not having to wait until the next meeting. Let's see how we do going forward. Let's see. Next up, I see a Sam P. had his hand up.
Yes, hello. Did Brian Murray had some very interesting questions. I would like to cede my time to him if he has any. Brian, would you care to take my time?
If that's allowed by everybody, sure.
That is what I would prefer as a resident of Branford.
Inland Wetlands Associate Katie Blanchett. Sam, can I have your last name, please?
Pappas.
You should say what street you're on. We're right next door.
Thank you.
I'd like to, before turning it back to Mr. Murray, I see one more hand raised that I'd like to hear from, and then we'll turn it back to Mr. Murray. Asian Bartholomew, or Elaine Bartholomew?
Yeah, that's fine. This is Alan Bartholomew. I'm actually neighbors with many of the people that have spoke already. I'm also on Well Sweep Road. And what I would say in general is that you are vastly underestimating the amount of water in that wetland. This whole neighborhood is a swamp. Everyone's backyard is swampy and has standing water. And that's in a drought year like last year. So you're really pushing your luck by interfering with the wetland in any way at all. And if you just look at the location of the swamp where you're trying to put these lots in, you're basically at the valley between two hills, one hill coming down from Leeds Highland Road, one hill coming down from Featherbed. And even in a good year, we have standing water that quite often goes over Gould. It pushes our storm sewer water up through the asphalt on Well Sweep Road. And I'm not really confident that you're addressing this to the degree that it's going to work. And I don't have to tell you, because of climate change, the old models for water flow and 25-year floods and 100-year floods, that's basically all out the window now. We're getting huge rain events consistently every year, and I'm just very worried about seeing any more development go on in that area. The last comment I would make, and this echoes some of the others, and I know it's maybe not your jurisdiction to worry about animals, but that wetland is a huge breeding ground for wood ducks. And I'm sure this is one of the species that Brian enjoys seeing. And it's ironic that for 100 years, the state of Connecticut has undergone a huge effort to bring the wood ducks back to a state now where they're a species of least concern. And by building in a questionable area, you're basically rolling back all that progress that was done. And it just seems like this is such a huge effort to build in a sketchy area. And I just, aside from how it affects me personally, just, you know, from an ethical, moral standpoint, I know someone's making tons of money and that's why this is going on, but it just doesn't seem right. And I'm quite certain if you go through with this, there's going to be all kinds of unforeseen water problems. So that's it. Thanks for letting me talk.
You're right. Mr. Murray, you have the floor.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My next comment is basically on the same water flow topic there. Being adjacent to that property, it seems like the town engineer has already addressed the fact that that water would flow directly down my driveway, which would result in additional pooling in my yard. There has been times during storms, and I can't comment as to what the 100-year storm would be versus a 25-year storm. I can only comment what I see out my back door, which is the stream that runs across my backyard that I've had to call the town for before, because the drainage pipe that goes and crosses 95 oftentimes will get filled with debris or things that inhibit the water flow, which backs things up and creates a much larger water area than you see today. But it is a very often, it is a actual thing that is very often and should be noted within the town already as to it being a problem there. Any additional water flow that would come down from any construction there, I've got to look for some sort of assurances that my property, as well as the wildlife and everything else, is protected in the area as well, because it does pool up to the point that there's literally a stream going across my backyard. Not sure how to get those assurances.
Mr. Commissioner Baskerman, well, Mr. Murray, as you know, the town engineer has raised the issue. The applicant has said that they need to respond to the engineer, and let's see what comes out of that discussion and review.
Certainly.
Is there any other member of the public that wishes to speak? I don't see anyone else's
Apologies.
hand
A
raised,
point
but
of clarity. The applicant, their name again, remind me.
Mr. Wesmer?
The applicant is, it's on the application form. It's
Jamie
3
Fred.
3
Frederick and
Beechwood LLC, something.
5 Beechwood LLC.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Jamie Frederick and Lynn Wetland Agent. Would you like me to read through the chat real quick, Chairman?
Yeah, just confirm this, Commissioner Baskerman. Jamie, just confirm that nobody else has hand raised.
Sam P, are you done with your comments for now?
I would just like to comment on the great efficacy and involvement of my neighbors. I live at 46 Acorn Road, Branford, Connecticut, and I'm thankful to be in the company of people who care much about the wildlife that they share this planet with. So thank you very much, Jamie.
Okay, why don't you read the chat at this point, Jamie?
All right, and if anyone else wants to speak, just raise your hand. There should be a button at the lower portion of your window that says raise hand, or it might say, what is it? You might have to click reactions and then raise hand. All right, so going back in the chat relative to public comment, I'm just going to stick to the things that are questions. Will public comment be open? Yes, we're doing that now. We did the volume. May I view maps online? Thank you, Patricia, for sharing the agenda and Dropbox link. One story or two? That's a question for the applicant. I'm sure they can note that and address it. I think we've already addressed, could there be 3 different builders? But that's another question for the applicant. Can the files of these maps be shared once more, please? Again, we have that link. You all added plants are native to New England. That is very good. I think that was just in response to our request that comments not be added to the chat until public section or comment section. Tell Matt he has a nice map of Connecticut. Jamie, can you please repeat that? I think I was caught up and I couldn't respond, but this was in regards to continuation of the public hearing. So I think the intent will likely be, and we'll confirm at the end, to continue it to the April 10th meeting. However, if we're still waiting for information, it will be tabled to the April 24th meeting. And that
Matt,
will be noted.
Brilliant map of Connecticut. Very beautiful. Thank you. That is all.
And that would be noted on the April 10th meeting if the public hearing was being continued to the April 24th meeting. So you wouldn't have to attend if it said that it was tabled. And of course, if you have any questions, you can call the Inland Wetland office. Our number is 203-315-0675. All right. One of the closest current houses to site 1 on the other side of the train track still has, okay, so this I think they talked, but still has a septic system with leaching field. Has the change to the water table been calculated and how it can affect local homes? How are we metering how this project will change the water table locally, especially in lower grade? You can also reach out to us via my email, which is provided in the chat, jfrederick@branford-ct.gov. Okay. Then we have somebody else provided their email address. Just so you know that if you email this email address, it will not get to the Inland Wetland office. So you can email jfrederick@branford-ct.gov if you have any comments or questions. Is there any way for me to contact the applicant directly? I'll let the applicant respond to that question as well. All right, so I don't see any hands raised.
You're going through the chat.
We've gone through the chat at this point.
Are there some of the questions raised either by the commission or the public that you're able to address this evening, Mr. Wasmer?
I think I'd prefer to get together with the other consultant and the applicant and formulate concise answers. It seems that a lot of the questions or comments were not relative to wetland impacts. However, we will do our best to address their questions. I have nothing further to add.
I'm sure you will, Ronald. Thank you.
Okay, I think at this point, given the amount of information,
We do have one raised hand. Oh,
Where?
we had it for a second. I think it went away. Maybe it was accidental.
I think at this point, given the Commissioner Basserman, given the amount of information that the commission raised questions about and needing response from the applicant, as well as issues raised within the
Oh.
public forum. That
We want
it
to take
was,
one more public comment. It looks like the hand was in fact meant to be raised. Keita Ree.
somebody's iPhone.
I think Keita Ree. Oh, you're muted. You have to unmute.
I was wondering what the distance from the houses that are proposed to the train tracks is going to be.
Okay, I guess add that to the list, Mr. Wasmer.
Sure.
And we do enjoy the wildlife back here very, very much. And there are turtles that come from the ponds. Thank you.
Okay. It would seem to be prudent to move the discussion regarding the public hearing to the April 10th meeting if the information is available. If not, then we'll table it at the April 10th before the April 10th meeting and move it to April 24th. Is there any commission member who feels that that's not an appropriate course of action here?
I'm sorry, Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. I kind of spaced there for a second, collecting all my thoughts. Can you repeat what you said one more time?
Yeah, given the amount of information that it looks like it needs to be addressed, both from town engineer, the commission, the public, that the applicant indicated they would do their best to try to pull that together for our April 10th meeting. It may be that there's enough information and not enough time, in which case we would table the public hearing for the April 10th meeting and hopefully meet again on April 24th. And I asked if there was any commission who felt that we should move in a different direction.
This is Commissioner Mirsky. I don't disagree with your plan. I just wanted to ask if I was permitted to ask one question of clarification based on something that was just recently said, or should that be tabled for another meeting?
We've got some time. Why don't you raise it now?
I was just wondering, some of the comments that were made, public comments that were made, expressed concerns about changes in water, depending on the time of year. As I'm slightly newer, I didn't attend the site walk from the last time, but I was wondering if we are permitted and if the commission may consider, whether today or at another meeting, the idea of going back during a slightly different time of year. If that is permitted, then I would wonder if those people that live around that area would recommend certain times if they have knowledge of it, if we are permitted to do so, and if the commission was amenable to such a suggestion.
Well, I guess my comment would be, we have a clock associated with the application. We have to render a decision unless we get extensions. I guess to the extent that the information that is provided by the applicant is not sufficient to address the issues that were raised, I guess we'll have to relook at that possibility.
Amy Frederick and the Wetland Agent. I'll just add, it's not typical to do a second site walk. I don't know that it's, impossible, but it's not typical. I would expect that the applicant will respond to those comments regarding groundwater, particularly as it relates to the wetlands capacity to function for, floodwater storage and attenuation. So I would agree that we should see what information is submitted for the next meeting.
And this is Commissioner Begemon. the water table is listed on the application somewhere. There's a table of the different water tables, and so maybe the applicant can talk about that when that question is addressed. Did you hear me?
Jamie Frederick and the Llewellyn Union. Yes, yeah, I'm sure the applicant will respond to whatever information they have on the file, and that they'll probably look to provide some more based on the comments that were raised.
I heard you, yes.
Okay, I think I'd like to then close the public hearing.
Nope. Jamie Frederick and the Llewellyn Union.
Extend.
Continue.
Continue, extend the public hearing till April 10th, 2025. And thank you all for hanging in for almost 2 hours here. Appreciate the public interest, and we'll see you again in April.
Same time, same place. Zoom, 7 p.m.
Correct.
Wonderful.
And the meeting
All right,
materials will be at the
Acorn
same
Road. We'll have a little barbecue. We'll have everybody bring your laptops, hop in for public comment. It'll be a grand old time. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Next up, we have application for review, Inland Wetland 250201, 301 Maple Street, a renovation to the space within 100 feet of a wetland. There is information on 301 Maple Street. Staff has prepared a report regarding same.
No, I hope we get it off now.
I'm sorry? Somebody inadvertently.
I don't think they realized they were unmuted.
Right.
All right.
What's new with 301 Maple, Jamie?
301 Maple, we have received a revised plan that shows responses to some of the points raised at the last meeting. And I also had some correspondence with the property owner in regards to activities. And if those responses have been added to the record. And I also have drafted a staff report for the commission's consideration. So I'm thinking probably the logical place to start would be the revised site plan. Does the applicant want to share that, or do you want me to share it for you to go over the changes?
Yes, Jim Galligan from Nathus and Young. Jamie, if you could share that would, I'm a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to that stuff. So if you could share that, I would appreciate it.
Here, 1 minute. You have a couple things, so I don't have to go back and forth. All right.
Okay, there were a couple of things that we were asked to make sure we have on the plan. I'll start at the top of the page. We corrected the driveway plan so that it shows that it's coming from both Maple Street and Swift Street. We were also asked to identify what trees that we're going to remove down next to the river. And there's one there that Jimmy just spotted, and one there that we're calling to have the tree cut down, but the root system to remain. We also added, as you can see in green, a planting plan of various vegetation that we took off of the Connecticut DEP suggestions for vegetation. We are going to still maintain the fence, the 4-foot fence, 10 feet from the top of the bank, and going to infill around the vegetation plantings with 3-inch thickness of mulch. And there is a planting list that we intended to put in there.
Commissioner Bassman, Mr. Galligan, there were some dead trees, right? They were going to be removed, but the stubs remain?
Yes, that's right, sir.
Identified?
Yes, they are. Jamie, yep, there's one right there, and there's the second one there.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And the stumps are to remain, the root system to remain.
This is Commissioner Begemon. The fence has been changed from vinyl to chain link, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, from a budgetary standpoint, the guy was looking at what the cost is for adding the additional vegetation and so on, and decided to go with the chain link fence instead. It still does have the 4 foot wide gate as the engineer requested, but yes, they did change the material for the fence.
And Commissioner Begemon, is in the design, it shows a certain depth that the end posts need to go in. Is there any difference in how deep the chain link fence post has to be dug? And it's all going to be done by hand? Yeah, that picture looks like it's going down like 4 feet into the ground.
Yeah, those will either be dug or sometimes they do what they do is they have them driven, which is a hand tool that you use that actually drives the post in, and then or they can use post hole diggers to dig the hole for the fence posts.
This is Commissioner Basserman. The shrubs that are going to be along the fence line, is that listed somewhere?
Yes, right at the bottom of the page. The planting, there's a planting list right there.
And given their proximity to the fence, in terms of their maturity, they're not going to interfere with the fence in terms of their growth?
No, there's that 10-foot wide buffer area between the top of the slope and the fence. So they'll be planted, intermittently through there. Some of them are just small ground vegetation, and some of them are actual bushes. But there's a 10-foot swath there that they can be planted in.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. The circles depicted on the plan are pretty good representations of the mature size of the plants selected.
Oh, thank you.
This is Commissioner Begemon. The choice of plantings, which I'm just wondering, you went with these rather than, I'm thinking about maintenance in that buffer zone for you all. Mulch and these plants, you went with rather than, for instance, the wildlife meadow mix, which you could mow twice a year and perhaps control invasives that way. Can you just explain why you chose these plants?
Yeah, I chose them because I thought these were a good choice for putting them in the location. It really wasn't. I'm not a big fan of that seed mix that you mow twice. I feel that this is these have a better flowering. They're appealing to the eye. I felt this was more appropriate.
Maybe it's appropriate at this point, this Commissioner Basserman, to go through the staff report, Jamie, and see if that stimulates any other questions.
Sure. Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. So there's no activity proposed within the wetland water course. Fishing waive the wetland delineation requirement given the slope adjacent to the water course. We have received the survey, the last revised March 24th. pending application was submitted in response to notice of violation issued November 12th, 2024, in response to vegetation removal within the 100-foot upland review area without a permit. Silt fence has been installed and straw spread over areas of ground disturbance. As we discussed previously in 2013, the previous inland wetland agent sent the property owner at the time a letter expressing concern regarding the stability of the slope. In response to that conversation, Nafis and Young Inc. submitted a letter indicating that the stability of the wall has not changed materially in 12 years. And that was discussed a little bit more after receipt of that letter at the last meeting. Erosion controls, there's silt fence and catch basin, inlet protection proposed / installed, kind of a mix of conditions. Stormwater, there's no proposed changes. Landscaping, the latest plan has the vegetative strip that we just went over, with 3-inch mulch bed between the water court top of bank of the water course and the proposed fence, which is located approximately 10 feet from the top of the bank. Tree leaning on current fence to be cut to prevent conflict with proposed fence. See possible condition. Engineering department recommended agency consider requiring a gate in the fence for maintenance access purposes. The revised plan does include the gate. Some possible conditions for consideration include contact the inland wetland department to request inspections / site meetings for the following: erosion control inspection after repairs have been made prior to any further site work, and a final inspection. 2, aside from cutting back the fallen tree, it should say, aside from cutting back the trees identified on the plan, really, because there are 2 of them, no further vegetation removal, tree, brush, sapling, living or dead, is covered by this permit. The tree, maybe this is where it should say, conflicting with the fence installation, shall be cut in a way that does not result in obstruction of flow of water course or associated stormwater conveyance. 3, any remaining trash / anthropogenic debris shall be removed prior to spreading topsoil and seeding. Topsoil and seeding shall be completed in accordance with the information provided via email on March 19th, 2025. No additional clearing is covered by this permit. 4, any modifications to the planting plan must be approved by the inland wetlands and water courses duly authorized agent. That's in response to the fact that inevitably there's always something that they want to change based on plant availability or what have you. 5, the mulch spread in the area between the top of bank and fence shall be free of invasive and nuisance species material to prevent the establishment of non-desirable species and reduce competition for the native species to be planted. And then 6, routine maintenance and monitoring of the planting shall occur for 5 years to ensure its establishment in at least 85% survival. Monitoring reports shall be provided to the Inland Wetlands and Water Courses Office at the end of each growing season. If the first 3 years of monitoring are completed on time and are successful, the 5-year requirement may be reduced to 3. And then the standard conditions and general provisions of all permits.
This is Commissioner Bassman. Jamie, do we care the specifics of the mulch that's used? Natural as opposed to synthetic?
I mean, I think you probably do. I guess I just assumed it would be natural. You could say the mulch to be spread in the area at the top of the bank and fence shall be a natural mulch free of invasive and nuisance species. I certainly will want to see a rubber mulch in that location.
Right.
This is Commissioner Begemont. How many? I know there are 31 plants, I believe, if I added correctly, 31 to 36 plants being proposed in that area, that 10-foot by, what's the length of the whole property? And my question is, if we only ask for 85% survival rate, we might end up with 28 plants growing there. And is that really sufficient for that area, Jamie? Since we don't have a wetland scientist here, I don't think, if I'm correct, in terms of serving as the serving as a wetland buffer.
So let's see, to answer your first question. My handy dandy measuring tool is not working. Let's see, we'll guess one.
It's about about 180 feet, Jamie.
That's, yeah, Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. Thank you. That's so about 180 feet by 10 feet. Like I said, the plantings are drawn to approximately their mature size. When I was drafting the condition, I did kind of have the thought of, so they've got some herbaceous plantings and then they've got one shrub. So I would want to see at least 85% survival across the different plant types. So you could specify that. Like, you know, wouldn't want to just see the herbaceous plants be successful because then it would be pretty sparse. I think if you have those shrubs, I mean, it's still a little sparse, but I don't know that it would.
Well, this is Commissioner Bass, but the other thing is, I mean, the 15%, if it all occurs in one area, you know, that's
Yeah.
one impact as opposed to spread along the whole 180 feet.
I put 85 because that's our standard threshold in our regulations when mitigation is required.
This is Commissioner Bagman. Some of those, I know that the New Jersey tree has like a 5-foot diameter when it's mature. Phlox, pretty small plant. Butterfly weed spreads, which is great. But I'm just wondering if we should increase the amount slightly. If we think that 85% would be too few for this area.
This is Commissioner Goklowski. Prior to the notice of violation, there was no buffer zone on this property to begin with. And what I see here with the applicant trying to do is correct the wrong. I personally don't have a problem with the 85% if in fact that we can revisit it because I'm sure there's going to be an inspection period that we have to do, and if there's an issue, we can address the issue at that time. The applicant, is looking at cost factors right now too. Had to go from a vinyl fence to a chain link fence because of the cost factor. I don't have a problem with what's being planted there, and I'm sure they're going to have a very good success rate with what's being planted there.
This is Commissioner Begman. We don't have pictures of what the vegetation looked like before. That's what happens when you don't have, when there's a violation. So there was
James. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
You sure? If you weren't done, please continue.
I would just, Commissioner Begman, I would just say that since we don't know what vegetation was there, it's hard to say whether this will be as vegetated as it was before. And therefore, I think that if we're trying to protect the waterway, we as a commission should say whether we think that this is sufficient. And if it is, great. But if we think it's too sparse, then we should increase the number.
This is Commissioner Goklowski.
Wait, if I may, real quick, Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, before we speculate, I would like to provide some information. So I did go out to the site. It was definitely overgrown. There was definitely a lot of vegetation back there, understory type vegetation, when I was out there earlier this year / late last year. Let's see, these are the pictures from 2013, though, back when the property was a little bit more maintained. And you can see there are the mature trees and there are some under, I mean, obviously this is, leaf off type condition, but you can, if you look closely, see that there was maintained space, it looks to me, within that backyard, approaching pretty close to the top of the slope. So I think there might be some room for some compromise in interpretation based on historic maintenance of the property versus what the deferred maintenance condition was when I saw it. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Goklowski again. I've stated, a few times that I do remember the history of this property when the property was first built, and the lawn was it was a big lawn. I mean, I know the property is a triangle, but it had a lot of lawn, and it was impeccably maintained. I mean, you would pull down Maple Street, and that house would stand right out. So.
Jim Galligan from Apis and Young. Mr. Chairman, if there is a suggestion as to a modification of the number of plants that the commission feels would be appropriate, I'm all ears.
I understand. This is Commissioner Vassar. My concern is we have used 85% in this fashion in multiple applications, and I don't know that I have a basis for changing that 85% on a maybe condition.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'm not suggesting changing the 85%. Jamie, if you could draw that down to the listing. If the commission feels that the listing is insufficient, certainly the 85% is a standard. Actually, it's a standard for almost all wetlands commissions. I represent several wetlands commissions, and we have the same one. So it seems like we're kind of stuck on the number of the amount of vegetation. I think, I understand that some of the commission members may feel that it's a little sparse. However, I think in the bigger picture, we have an application here that has no impact on the wetlands, no fill in the wetlands. This buffer area or buffer area is not a transition zone. It's the top of an 8-foot bank. So it's not like the vegetation is going to transition from wetlands to uplands. But it seems like we're stuck on a numerical issue, and if there's a numerical issue that resolves the problem, I'm open to suggestion.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, to that point, and the point of 180 feet, I guess, if the commission does feel that more plantings are required, I guess it depends on what plant is selected, but assuming that you're looking for more shrubs and something of a similar size to the New Jersey tea, by adding 10 shrubs, you would have 10-foot spacing, which would be plenty of space for the plants to mature and for those other plants to fill in. So that's just one recommendation to keep the conversation moving.
This is Commissioner Vassar. Jamie, could you repeat that?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. So earlier we established that the length of the fence is approximately 180 feet. And that New Jersey tea's mature size is approximately 5 feet wide.
Right.
And I was saying if you have 10-foot spacing, you would have about 18 shrubs, which would not have, it wouldn't be a very dense planting, but it would give you a denser planting than what's proposed and still leave plenty of space for the wild blue phlox and butterfly weed. Just a number to throw out there and the rationale of why I picked that number.
This is Commissioner Begeman. I like that idea.
Me too.
Wow.
And in the grand scheme of things, like shrubs
I
are
know better
probably
than to
going to
argue with
cost
a
somewhere
woman.
between $30 to $50. It's not going to make or break the project.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I know better than to argue with a woman.
Years of experience there, right?
That's right. Yes, sir. All right, so we'll beef up the numbers of the Jersey T, and I can even increase the other numbers. We have no exception. We take no exception to increasing. It's like Jamie said, the value of what those are is not the it doesn't it's not the camel's back.
So what was the final number so that we have something that because this is going to be I guess, a condition of approval, given the fact that we have a site plan that would be different than what we're talking about now?
Yeah, so I guess the recommendation.
I'm willing to suggest that we change the New Jersey T's to 20, and we change the butterfly weed to 16.
Is that acceptable, Commissioner Begeman?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm frozen. Yes.
Inland
I'm-
Wetland Association.
Connection problem.
Could you give me those numbers again for the record?
Sure. We would change the New Jersey T from 8 to 20, and we would change the butterfly weed from 8 to 16.
Thank you kindly.
Any other concerns from the commission? Any, other than the mix of vegetation, any other changes to the possible or additions to the possible conditions for consideration?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. I would just note again that condition 2 should reference that there's 2 trees. So I would say aside from removal of the 2 trees identified on the plan, comma, no further vegetation removal.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, Jim Galligan again. Jamie, if you could just flip to the photo of that tree leaning on the fence. Yeah, that's perfect. That tree there, but there's also a stump, a fallen branch or something down below. It would be our intention to take that little piece out as well. And then the choke cherry on the other end is the one I'm the most worried about because the root system is that ball is entwined into the embankment.
I'm not sure if I have a photo of that one.
Yeah, and it's behind the photographer in this picture.
This one?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you can see that's kind of at the bottom of the tree there. I don't. That's the one I have the most concern about because the tree itself is dead.
Yeah, so when both of those are removed, they should be removed in a way that's not going to result in blockage of flow.
I'll use the phrase any earth disturbance.
This is Commissioner Bassman. Jamie, I would like to see natural mulch specified.
You know, we'll agree with that. I don't like the rubber mulch. I don't have any of it at my house. I have all natural.
Okay, we ready for a motion on Inland Wetland 250201?
Commissioner Armrad, I'll make a motion to approve inland wetland 250201 301 Maple Street, renovations of yard space, replacement of deck, and let's see here, and the possible conditions for considerations as indicated in the staff report. In addition to, let's see, item 2 in the possible conditions for consideration, we want to amend that to say, aside from cutting back the fallen tree conflicting with the fence, there's also going to be, we identified 2 additional trees that will be cut back. And the additional plantings, I believe it was 20. We're going to up the numbers of the New Jersey tea plant and the butterfly milkweed as noted, as well as the standard conditions and general provisions in the issuance of all permits.
This is Commissioner Begemon, and we wanted to have the word natural mulch in condition number 5.
Thank you. Yes, correct.
Friendly amendment.
Accepted.
I second the motion.
Great. Any further discussion?
Jamie Frederick, inland wetland agent. Just to clarify, the New Jersey tea would be increased to 20 and butterfly weed to 16.
Yes, thank you, Jamie. That was it.
Commissioner Gokowski.
Commissioner Gokowski, aye.
Commissioner Begemon.
Commissioner Begemon, aye.
Commissioner Armrod.
Commissioner Armrad, aye.
Commissioner Mirsky.
Commissioner Mirsky, aye.
Commissioner Papantonis.
Commissioner Papantonis, aye.
Commissioner Basserman, aye. Thank you, Mr.
very-
Galligan.
Thank you. Should I hang around for the next item?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay.
We have notice of violation. 301 Maple Street, removal of vegetation without a permit. Go ahead, Jamie.
Jamie Frederick, inland wetland agent. I think at this point, it would be appropriate to close out that file, given that there's now a permit in place. And then if there's any issue for compliance with the permit, it'd be a separate issue. Any commissioners feel differently?
That's our normal practice, is it not?
I think in the case of notice violation, yes. All right.
Any commissioner have issue with that?
No.
Great. We don't need to vote on that, do we?
It's an informal.
Yeah. Okay.
All right,
Anybody
so we'll close
oppose that?
out.
Does anybody oppose that? No. Good.
No.
Okay. CISA correct 240901 NOV for 9 High Plains Road. We have a continuation of the show cause hearing, and we also have a new letter. Jamie?
Jamie Frederick, inland wetland agent. I'm a little surprised we don't have anyone here. I had talked about possibly tabling it if we didn't have information, but we do. They were noticed. Does the commission want to move forward with the information that has been received and see if you think it's appropriate to act, or if you want to continue the item?
This is Commissioner Begemon. One of the questions I had was, I thought we were still waiting for some reports.
So we did get a report from the soil scientist today.
I know, but I thought we were waiting for reports for calculations of some sort, but maybe they came in.
I think they were waiting So there was some information we were waiting for relative to the flocculant material. However, in my opinion, if the recommendation is changed not to apply the flocculant, we don't need the information regarding the flocculant.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Jamie, can you screen share the letter? Because I think that gets to the heart of the issue we were struggling with.
All right, 1 minute. I closed that on my window like a fool. Plans. Does everyone, well, I guess not everyone, because we've got one new commissioner. So I'm just, at least for her reference, gonna also pull up. I have it in this.
It was in the Dropbox, right?
Yeah, no, I thought I had a GIS map. I'm not quickly finding it. So, I know it's somewhere in here. All right, so as a quick reminder slash high-level overview for those that are new, there's 2 ponds on 40 Hickory Hill Lane. 90 High Plains regraded their yard and didn't have erosion controls up, and so sediment entered the roadway and entered the stormwater system, and there was siltation of the pond. So that's the impact, and this is looking at a resolution for that impact. The violator was told to hire a wetland scientist to assess those impacts and determine whether any corrective action needed to occur to address those impacts. It was recommended that flocculant should be added to help settle out the material in the pond because it was becoming resuspended with storm events. I have periodically since this was back in September, since then I've periodically driven by, and I don't remember at what point, but I did note that at a point it was no longer resuspending. So the question for the soil scientist kind of became, is your recommendation still to add the flocculant to the pond? And so the response we received today is on that topic. It's fairly short. So essentially, I'll just start here. REMA has been monitoring the pond over the past few months and can report that the effects of the sediment event were temporary in nature and that the pond, in our professional opinion, has returned to a stable functioning condition. While we noted a moderate bloom of filamentous green algae in both the upper and lower ponds, that is typical of this time of year when excess accumulated nutrients, including in sediment trapped in catch basins over the winter months, flushed out. Sorry, tired. Water discharging from the upper to the lower pond, estimated at approximately 0.3 to 0.5 CFS, was clear at the time of inspection. We also note that new white paint markings on the catch basin grates above the aforementioned ponds likely indicated that the basins have been recently cleaned via vacuum suction. That is in fact the case. In conclusion, it is our professional opinion that the ponds have returned to pre-existing function and no additional remedial action is necessary, especially since the source of sediment has been remediated through soil stabilization with vegetation at 9 High Plains Road. Please call us if you have any questions on the above or need further assistance. And I would agree that 9 High Plains has been stable for some time, and I did drive by today to observe the markings to be able to confirm with the engineering department that that is in fact what the markings mean, and also just to confirm that everything looks stable. So I would agree with this report, and I think that we could lift, or well, I guess this is a continuation of the show cause, so I guess it would be to lift the order or to, brain's not working, so I'm gonna look at the language in the regs. although it should also be in the original order. So commission will consider the facts and determine whether the original order remains in effect, 2, the revised order, or that a revised order is in effect, or 3, that the order has been withdrawn or lifted. So the order remained in effect until the commission made a decision. I think at this point, that decision could be to withdraw the order. And that would be a motion, but if anyone has any questions, I can see if I can answer them. And I don't think anyone's going to be upset if the commission decides to lift it.
Is there a motion waiting to be heard?
So Jamie, you can make a.
I'll make a motion that
Wait, I think we have a question, Peter.
Oh, there's a question. Yes.
Commissioner Begman, when person is not here for a show cause hearing, when the can you still, even if you're lifting it, can you do it even if they're not here?
Yeah, it's a show cause hearing, which means they have the right to show up. And
okay.
But it doesn't mean that the commission has. I mean, I think if you were looking to uphold and file on the land records, you might want to consider. But no, I think in this case, there's no process issue with moving forward.
Great.
He will not be upset because we acted in his absence. I make a motion that we lift cease and correct 240901 NOV and NOV for 9 High Plains Road, given the report that we received from REMA on March 27th, 2025.
Commissioner Begeman, I'll second it.
And I think we need to vote on a cease and correct. Is that what you said, Jamie?
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Gokowski?
Commissioner Gokowski, aye.
Commissioner Begeman?
Commissioner Begeman, aye.
Commissioner Mirsky?
Commissioner Mirsky, aye.
Commissioner Armrod?
Commissioner Armrod, aye.
Commissioner Papantonis?
Commissioner Papantonis, aye.
Commissioner Basserman, aye. Okay.
Jamie, Frederick, and the wetland agent. I did note that somebody just logged on to the meeting. I just want to ask before we move on to the next item, are you here for 9 High Plains Road and 40 Hickory Hill Lane? Not seeing any.
Okay. Next up, we're not having a discussion because cease and correct 240601 was tabled. We have 2 applications for receipt, and we're not going to get a presentation this evening on either one. Is that correct, Jamie?
That is correct. The materials are in the Dropbox for both, and I believe paper copies were or will be sent out for 101 Hotchkiss Grove Road. If you have a chance to take a look at them before the next meeting.
We're now down to correspondence and announcements. Supply pond public information. You want to just briefly touch on that, Jamie?
Yeah, Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. I put this on the agenda as a notification / heads up in case you're hearing about the meeting. There is a public information meeting on April 1st. If anyone approaches you about the item, just keep in mind that we will be receiving an application. So just make sure you don't put yourself in a position where you're having ex parte communications. So that way you can, review the application and just explain that to them if anyone does approach you on that matter.
And item B is a normal notice from DEEP regarding a pesticide application. Nothing unusual there, right, Jamie?
Nope, that's a repeat, pretty standard. Nothing new on it that I saw.
And last up, we have the Connecticut Bar Association webinar, which was extremely well attended. I had one, I guess, a couple takeaways. One is, did I hear correctly, Jamie, that regarding site walks and public hearings, that the normal course of action is to have the site walk scheduled after the public hearing has been open?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, I believe that was a recommendation that was made, particularly given access to recording devices. It's something we could consider for the next meeting or the next public hearing. I think at times, though, it's beneficial to have that site walk first, especially when the commission is not sure if the public hearing is warranted. So you can go either way with that. But
I assume that I assume the reason for doing it after the public hearing is that people then get noticed and therefore can participate.
Yeah, I think and so that's part of the record. So when we have it beforehand, I take pictures and those pictures get added to the record. Right. But if you have it during the public hearing process, it's part of that record.
What about the recording of the site walks? Not the note taking, but actually voice recording, which was also mentioned, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure if they meant voice recording or if they meant video recording. That's something we could look into if you're interested for in the future.
I'm not. I asked
I
around.
definitely think if you're having it as part of after the public hearing has been opened, you kind of open yourself up to that sort of process.
Right. And I talked to a number of different towns, and nobody is doing either voice or video recording, taking notes for sure, getting it into the record for sure, but it becomes a little bit unwieldy when you think about trying to record some of this stuff on particular site walks.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. Not to say, what was said is right or wrong, but there's a lot of nuance and there's a lot of different practices that different towns have. And then also, not all, I don't know if this is one of those topics, but not all land use attorneys agree on best practices or what's right and wrong. And that's one thing that you miss with the remote version of this. You get a little bit, when they had it in person, you used to get a little bit of that back and forth between some of the lawyers that were present of, well, they think, but I think, and you don't really get that anymore. So I don't, like I said, I don't know that applies to this topic, but just something to generally keep in mind in regards to the information that was presented.
This Commissioner Begeman, I thought one of their points about that was regarding recording that other people may be recording. So you have to be careful about speaking just about, which you two, Jamie and Peter, always say at the beginning, that we're here just to look at the layout and ask questions about positions of things, not to ask all those other questions about what's happening.
I don't think it was so much a warning, so much as a best practice, right? So if you record the meeting, like we record this meeting, then your site walk is recorded and there can be no question later about whether or not there were inappropriate questions asked. So it's establishing that record of the site walk. It is a bit challenging, I think, to do in practice because it really, and you are supposed to walk the site as a single group, but not everyone's mobility and ability to see various parts of the site are the same. So, I think that's one of the more challenging aspects of trying to do that is that you're going, everyone's going at the same pace and seeing the same things at the same time.
For those that attended, any other comments? Was it a worthwhile? I know it's a long day. Was it a worthwhile? Did folk think? They offer this quite frequently.
Every other year.
As Commissioner Armstrong, yeah, I thought it was great. Just that, these are practitioners that have been doing this a long time, and to hear them talk about interpreting the regulations and how the courts have decided was just great and valuable. So yeah, overall I thought it was great.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Mirsky. I also agree. I mean, I think I was focusing a little bit more on the case law because as a lawyer, also I also noted there was in some of the classes, some of the courses, there was discussion about a couple of cases that are still pending on appeal, and so it's kind of interesting to see the change that's going to happen over time. And I mean, I know as a newer commissioner, I can also appreciate the importance of the work, not just that we do, but how it impacts zoning other departments and how we have to sort of have awareness of those other entities, as we do our work as well. So I appreciated, maybe that's more of a reminder for the rest of you, but I appreciated that, that intersection and those, that broader understanding. So it was good.
Great. Are we at that point?
Make a motion to adjourn.
We jumped the gun. Way to go.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night, all.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.